Okay.
In your
Alexander
head.
Volkanovski against Chan Sung Jun. Zombie. The zombie. The Korean zombie.
I just like when they just put zombie as his last name.
Yeah.
They don't even try to pronounce anything. They're like zombie.
Well, that's because the people who run Fight Pass, yet again, can't get his fucking name right. He's been Chang Sung Jun. Chun. I'm honestly, the amount of different, like, permeations of his name. Permutations? Is that the right word? Permutations? There's a word in there somewhere. There's definitely a word in there somewhere. Yeah. I mean, so I did NordVPN for your geo-blocked content. So I've done a breakdown show, which I think is still available right now, but it most likely will be unavailable soon to everybody outside the UK. So take a digital vacation in the UK using NordVPN, nordvpn.com/outlawed, or use the code outlawed50 at checkout, and you'll get a huge discount. You'll get a month free. You'll get a free gift. You'll be able to go on the channel and watch the breakdown show of this, which was quite a straightforward breakdown, to be honest. Like, I've done some in the past few months that have been really fucking complicated, and it's been like giving me a real headache to like pull them apart and identify all the skills that might come into play. This one was pretty straightforward because they both kind of occupy the same space in the octagon. They both want to be right on that inside the octagon line with their opponent backed up against the fence. Different reasons, though. Volkanovski wants to maul and level change and take you down, and Chan Sung Jun wants to beat you up there, and when you level change to try and take him down, he's got loads of space to wrestle into. Volkanovski's a volume puncher that's not got loads of like one-punch knockouts on his record. He does hurt people with big shots, but he doesn't tend to finish them with big shots. Chan Sung Jun drops people cold with big shots and then follows up with a couple of unnecessaries to finish. He's also got a very, very strong ground game, as we know. He's got a twister on his record. He's got good neck attacks. He's just generally a good all-rounder on the floor. Volkanovski predominantly is a wrestler, a ground and pound wrestler, like old school style. So for me, this is
kind of like old school.
He does. Like, I watch his style, and like, I always remember the old school UFCs, like Matt Hughes defending his belt against. I mean, when he defended his belt against Sean Shirk, there were some shots where they were through the fence, and he just had Sean Shirk like wedged in the corner up against the fence, and he's just fucking smashing him with these big ground and pound shots. Most of the time now, if you see somebody in that position, they're bound, legs and wrist bound, and they're in a position to get ground and pounded, or they're out in the center getting ground and pounded from guard. It's very rare that you see that style of ground and pound nowadays, and he's just very, very good at it. Like, well, you tell me what you think of this one. I'm kind of split right down the fence because I could see both guys winning for different reasons and different ways.
Yeah, well, with Volkanovski, the pressure that he has on top of ground and pound, I think a lot of it has to do with this like invisible. It's kind of weird to say, but like this invisible like triangle that he has.
Yeah.
Like this pressure that he has between his legs that generate a lot of like gravity against his opponents. Because there's a huge difference with the way you stand. For example, and this is kind of something that is very clear in Wing Chun, for example, because you put your heels a little bit outward, and you like press down against your knees, which kind of generate this like really strong base.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, for fighting, if you're just doing that, obviously there's a whole bunch of issues. But if you have somebody down and you're on top and creating a lot of force, if you use that like aspect of it and apply it in a grappling sense, that's horrible to be in.
Yeah.
Because it creates pressure and it also blocks your ability to get out and to move. Like what he did to Kennedy, which is he's a great Canadian wrestler.
Yeah.
He was able to just keep him on the ground and punch him for about 2 minutes horribly.
Yeah. And it's not, the thing is, he's not grappling with them. Like he's not. There's no grappling involved. He's not like, well, I say there's no grappling involved. He's not grappling in the common sense of grappling. He's not holding them down and tying them up. He's weighting into them and pressuring into them. So like it creates like a. Yeah, let me use the other screen. Let me see if that will help. Oh, hang on a minute. Plain screen. Record this, Jamie. So like if that's the edge of the cage there, like he's able to fill that space with downward pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like they're caught here, and he's ramped onto them all the time. So like, and then if you look at him from behind, so like say that's the fence panel there, and his opponent's on the floor. So head, body, legs curled up, covering their head. Like he creates this like triangle over them, like that, where they're like underneath him all the time.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So like whenever they're trying to push into him, they're just pushing into that. They're pushing out into this direction, and he's just resting on that weight. So they're always carrying his weight, kind of like what Frankie Edgar does in guard. Do you know what I mean? Like so, like if you've got somebody in close guard, let me see if I can draw this. No, I can't draw it. So like if say like with Frankie Edgar, like when Frankie's stacking somebody, so like their head's there and then their spine curves and then they've got closed guard. Like Frankie's there in that position, so his head's here and he's putting weight down into them. So they're holding him off with their guard. So like their shoulders are pinned to the mat because he's putting weight down into them. This probably makes no fucking sense at all for everybody.
No, it makes absolute sense.
Do you know what I mean? It's like he just does it out in the center, which is he does it up against the fence, which we don't see because most people get up against the fence.
Yeah. Something cool against that is an elbow Brian Ortega landed, because there was a lot of pressure being generated. And I don't remember who it was he was fighting, but there was pressure being generated.
Thiago Tavares dropped him onto an elbow.
Yes, exactly, and he like swiveled his hips and collapsed that frame in order to have his momentum come in and meet the elbow. I felt like that was beautiful. But it's very hard to do that swivel of the shoulders and collapsing the hips when your back's against or close to the fence. That's better as an out in the open.
Yeah.
Which maybe Zombie can do, because that reversal of the takedown that he got was because there was a lot of space behind him and he was able to like roll the
the roll through against Poirier.
Yes, roll through.
Like I can see. So if I'm making an argument for both of them, like Korean Zombie's going to be able to walk Volkanovski down, is going to be able to chop hard into his lead leg and take some of his movement away, back him up against the fence, and keep him right on the end of his arms to set him up for that uppercut, similar to what he did against Dennis Bermudez, where he slipped the jab and came up the center. If Volkanovski gets past that, then I think we're going to see knees, and I think we're going to see takedown defense. And if it hits the floor, in the process of it hitting the floor, Zombie's got darces that he can attack, guillotines that he can attack, and if he takes the back, we know he's got rear naked chokes, but he's also got, a variety of other things, the twister being good evidence of that.
Yes.
So for Korean Zombie, that's for me is the game plan. Back up against the fence, long range shots, rising attacks up through the center, and then take down the fence with neck attacks on the way in, with some knees in the process. For Volkanovski, it's lateral movement and chopping his lead leg until you take some of the mobility of Zombie away, and then you start backing him up against the fence with the same kind of strikes he was using against Aldo, where he was like rushing forward and going bam, 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 change angle, bam, bam, change angle, bam, like just kind of sweeps him up against the fence. And Aldo being a good counter striker, there was no moment where he was like, now's the time I'm going to go, because before he's thought about striking, he's being hit again. I could see Volkanovski being able to kind of sweep him up against the fence, but only by hitting him and pushing him back.
He's always giving you something to deal with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the fight that we were watching with Jack Shore. That maybe Jack doesn't do as much like striking and forward pressure, but he's always giving you something to think and deal with that disrupts your rhythm and disrupts like the way you're getting on.
It's not he's not as erratic as Volkanovski. Volkanovski's got a real kind of side to side, and he does this like little shift with his head that he does as well. Head moves first, body follows. Like a bit of a fucking breakdown. But he's constantly in motion in front of you, and then chops the inside, chops the outside, double kicks to the legs. Like,
and Zombie's so heavy on the lead leg.
So heavy on the lead leg
as well, just so he can land. The thing is, I feel like Zombie has more one punch power because of the way he throws his punches.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, like what was it? I think it was the one that he got really quickly within like first 5 seconds or something. Like one of the
Mark
fastest.
Hominick.
Yeah, he went back, but he loaded so much on that leg and just shot straight through, kind of like a sprinter. He like loaded all the power onto his legs and shot straight into the chin, which, if you're throwing like looping shots, they land and they hurt like Gilbert Burns does, but they sometimes don't cause as much like one punch power.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Khamzat versus a Murshot that went
Yeah.
straight one punch, which is, you know,
Yeah.
what he has.
It's like I need a drawing page on this, Jamie. We need to figure something out with this. So like think about two right hand knockouts or knockdowns. So you've got the Korean Zombie against Moicano. So here's Moicano. There's his jab. Oh, that's not very good.
It's one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen.
There's his jab. Okay. So Korean Zombie's head is here and the right hand comes over and through, right? If you watch the Elkins Volkanovski fight, Elkins' head's here and Volkanovski comes over and clips it. Like he just glances his chin. It's not like he doesn't follow through like the Zombie does. Like the point of difference, let me just make it a bit clearer. So like if they're the two fighters' heads, Korean Zombies goes through the chin. Volkanovski clips the chin.
It's like breaking a board.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why,
Yeah.
Chung, because he
Gotta
does.
go through it.
Yeah, he probably has broken so many boards growing up. Because he's Korean, doing taekwondo. That's one of the things that you have to do with like every belt testing and stuff.
For sure. But I also think it's like you were talking about earlier. I think it's his willingness to be in situations where other fighters won't be. Like every time, like the Moicano knockout's beautiful because he's got his eyes on him all the time. He slips him and he counters him perfect. Same thing with the Bermudez fight. He sees the jab coming, he slips it and goes straight underneath. He doesn't even blink when these shots are coming towards him. His eyes are locked on all the time. I just think it's his willingness to be in the trade, and I think that puts him in a really strong position against someone like Volkanovski, because he's not going to out footwork Volkanovski. Like the risk is his lead leg as he's walking him down. He's not going to out footwork Volkanovski. He's going to have to meet him and wait for him to come in. Volkanovski can be in and out and changing that range all the time, but at some point he's got to step close to Zombie, and every time he tries to throw, there's a potential Volkanovski's just going to trade it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going Volkanovski by decision because I think his work rate and I think his overall game is enough to eke out a decision over Zombie, but I think he's really going to struggle to put him away.
You know what I find a little bit so shit for Zombie is that I think in an interview he talked about having a shoulder injury in December and wanting to fight later on in the year in order to fix that. And the Jose Aldo fight got stopped because remember his shoulder popped out. So imagine like your second title run. This time he's how old is he? 35. Yeah. So probably like close to one of his last, and you have the same curse.
Situation. Yeah,
that's a curse. That's like both title fights with a shoulder injury. Like,
you know what was interesting? Because he was out for a while. Like his career's been kind of in two halves because he did military service for a couple of years. And it was after the Aldo fight. So when was that? So he fought Aldo in 2013 and lost by TKO. And then he came back in 2017 and knocked out Dennis Bermudez. Mm-hmm. But that period of time that he was out doing military service, they put him in an office situation because of his injuries. So that was interesting. So I don't know whether it was coming off the Aldo fight. His shoulder was so bad that he couldn't do any kind of military training.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, but if that's a lingering injury, I mean, shoulder injuries just stay with you, don't they? They don't ever get better. One. Like I dislocated my collarbone, like, I don't know, 40 years ago or something, and it still bothers me sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I got to click out of there.
What's cool about him as well is that I don't think he's so determined by the fact that he's the Korean Zombie. Like when he fought Ige, he did a lot of smart strategic things by taking him down, getting his back and controlling him, and not going crazy to try to get a finish or to try and get a Zombie highlight, It shows a lot of maturity in his game. And also, I think in the gym he's at, training with like Henry and stuff, and yeah, like I really love and I really respect Henry. I don't like the cringe stuff so much. Just like I find that a little bit annoying, but you have to give
Gonna
him
be a
props.
great, yeah, he's
You
got to be a
gotta
great
give him
coach,
props
great
for
training
the
partner.
coach. Like, you know, this guy's dedicated, and there's a reason why Mark has gone to him, and so
Yeah.
many, you know, John Jones, Yuri Prochazka. There's a reason why so many great fighters go to him, because he has that like very analytical type of mind. Like when you see Henry teaching these like wrestling moves, it was like Wrestling Tuesday or something. They're such detailed moves, and because he's so small, he has to be way more
technical.
technical than
And
anybody else.
ideal kind of height and stature for someone that's fighting Volkanovski as well as a training partner.
Especially because Henry has had his eye on Volkanovski for a while now.
This
like
would be a good test to
calling
see
him
where he's
out.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5'6" to 5'7" and 71 to 72. So an inch in height and reach for the Korean Zombie. Yeah, I'm picking Volkanovski. I'm really looking forward to it because I think there's lots of ways that Korean Zombie can change the course of the fight.
Yeah.
But I think overall, Volkanovski's just going to be able to kind of outpoint him.
Yeah.
Just better him work rate and pace.
Yeah. I feel like with Volkanovski, you have to, like, he has to be out in order to stop. Like with Brian
Same with both
Ortega,
of
how
them, really,
close
though.
of that? Yeah. How
Same with both of them.
But I will say that Brian Ortega was able to kind of outpace Zombie, right?
Yeah.
He was able to like outwork him a little bit. Ortega did a great job in the 5th round, which the stats didn't show that he like outstruck Volkanovski, but I felt like he did really good in that round. In that 5th final round, that he started to move more like he did against Zombie, and not so much, I guess, you know, like going for the championship also is like an extra amount of pressure, but what he did against Zombie, I felt like he could have done against Volkanovski and would have had more success. Yeah, more success.
Yeah, for sure.
But that shoulder injury still is a little bit nerve-wracking for me, and the fact that he got kind of outworked with Brian Ortega, and Volkanovski will not put you in that position. That
he's a faster pace than everybody he's fought before. For
I
sure.
mean, more than Max Holloway, and that's insane.
Yeah. So you're going with Volkanovski as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty. It's an interesting fight, but I'm yeah.
Plus, I tagged him and he put the little heart, so that's it.
So you're best friends now.
Best friends.